The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, the perfect place for a pre-match pint.
Chance here, a great save. Turner from McClare. Mike Thomas. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week, the original Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm James and, well, there's just the three of us this week and we've got to be a little bit gentle with him as it was his birthday yesterday. Doesn't look a day over 50 though. It's Dickie Owl.
How rude are you being there?
What was it then?
50?
Go on. What was it?
Well, what I feel and how you're apparently as old as a man over when you feel.
Right, I'm listening.
So how old are you?
Couldn't possibly comment. I'm not in my 40s.
Well, anyway, happy birthday for yesterday. Happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you.
And she's recording Celebrity Big Brother just to be here, and also because, well, she's got no taste in television. Victoria.
Good evening, dear. I'm not just recording Celebrity Big Brother. I'll have you know that I've missed the last 10 minutes of Benidorm bargain bricks in the sun as well.
I'm sure your message says recording. Where is it? Somewhere. Record. Going to have to record CBB. I'll record CBB. It says.
Yeah, I'm recording that now. But I've missed the last 10 minutes of Benidorm. I told you that on the phone.
Oh, you did. You're right.
Not actual Benidorm either. It's a documentary about chavs in Benidorm. It's wonderful.
I'm going to refer to my previous point about you having no taste.
Right, so you're talking about chavs in Benidorm when I was talking to you on the phone about what you were doing, Vic? Do you want to share it?
Yeah, James. Tonight I have discovered, right, I've never ever touched one of these before.
Hey.
And Alistair brought one home for me as a gift. He was giving it for free at work, and it was a fidget spinner. And I have discovered that I can not only spin it on every finger, I can actually spin it on my nose. So, yeah.
I honestly, for a second,
Britain's Got Talent.
Not sure I liked where that was going there. Anyway, let's talk football and let's talk about future FA Cup winners, Sheffield Wednesday, through to the fifth round of the FA Cup after beating Reading. Seems like ages ago now, doesn't it? Back on Friday. I have to confess, I'll hold my hands up, I wasn't at the game. I had booked to go away for the weekend, so I did miss it. However, from what I hear from my friends that were there, it sounds like a little bit like it was the Atty and Matty show. I think Nuyu and Matthias, Marco. They kind of run the show, and 2 goals for Atty. Vic, I imagine you were over the moon at this.
Oh, mate. Oh, you have no idea. Like, I can't remember where I'd been now. I'd been out somewhere, and I got home and put it on the wireless, and I was just I'd have been ill. I think I've been ill. Yeah, I was poorly, and I I got out of bed and put it on the wireless, and then he scored again, and I was just like, oh my god, I suddenly feel so much better. And then obviously it carried on, and I didn't feel much better. But I was so happy, so happy for Atty. Don't worry.
Just for you two part-timers, I was actually there, although I nearly didn't get in, because I seem to remember when we used to go to so many steering groups, we talked a lot about a cashless stadium. Well, on our cashless stadium, you can't pay by card to get through the turnstile.
No, shut up.
Straight up. If I hadn't have bumped into a friend of mine who lent me the money, I would not have got into the game on Friday night.
Thing is, as well, we don't have any cash machines around here in Hillsborough either.
Nope.
You could get to Asda and buy some chewing gum and get cash back. That's our only option.
Yeah, I was walking home until, well, in fact, there was actually 3 people I bumped into on the way out. One of them was your good friend John James.
My
who I explained
friend,
the situation too. Yeah, and that was that. Then I went. Cleggy was the next one, and he also and then my good friend Paul Young actually lent me the money. So of the 3 people I bumped into,
did you just name drop Paul Young 80s icon? Or
no, it's not. No, he's nothing like that. Paul's ginger as fuck. and Paul Young's not, as far as I can remember. But no, Paul Young, not related to Paul Young, lent me the money, so thank you to him. But yeah, I wouldn't have got in otherwise. But yeah, there's at least 2 people on the way out that kind of just, oh, well, see you another time, Rich. Thanks, guys.
Lovely. So what was it like?
I must admit, the first 20 minutes, I sat there and thought, "Oh my God, here we go again." What
They were good, weren't they,
am I
Reading?
going to leave this time?
They made the better start, didn't they, Reading?
They did, yeah. And I just thought we were on I saw another Burton coming, and obviously after leaving on the 49th minute at the Burton game, which is officially the earliest I've ever dragged myself out of the ground. Yeah, as soon as we scored, we really settled down, and I was quite impressed with it. Especially second half, we just seemed to play. It was better to watch than what we've been watching recently down in South Wales now. There's just something about them, and I think just the fact that we've got a few kids out and Padil's been playing really well. It was a much better game.
From what my said friend John, who was at the game, obviously as you saw, from what he told me, that centre forward pairing of Nuyu and Matthias just worked really, really well. And is there a point now where we've got to start thinking, are they kind of our first choice centre forward pairing at the moment? Granted, obviously Matthias he picked up an injury because someone looked at him, and that means that he gets injured. It kind of all fell to bits for the Borough game anyway. But there can't be much denial that they work well together, don't they? It kind of works, them two.
It did, yeah. Matthias he looked good, didn't he? To be fair, he did look good against Reading. He was a lot of pace, a lot of trickery, and something we've probably not seen in him ever since he arrived. As for Atty, I'm still on the same boat as I always was with Atty. Yeah.
Despite his 2 goals and 1 assist, yeah.
Just 2 goals and 1 assist, yeah.
Just on the same boat,
I could have said, if he'd got that trick.
That proves to me that you're a miserable arsehole. That's what it proves to me. He got 2 goals, Victoria. 2 goals and 1 assist, and you still cannot say a good word about him. Well, I give up.
I just said I was on the same boat. I didn't say anything bad about it.
He could save your mother from a burning building, and you'd still say, well, he's got a ponytail. Sod you.
Well, it's a shame he didn't go to Sunderland yesterday, wasn't it? That'd be
Rich, talk to me. I was quite intrigued about how George Boyd played, because obviously he's been kind of on his way back from injury for a while, and this was another kind of opportunity to see kind of what this guy's going to have to offer, because I think, would we all agree that Wallace has been a little bit wobbly the last few games, so maybe Boyd getting back to fitness could be some a different option on that wing. What did you make of his performance?
First off, he was shocking. I agree with what you say about Wallace. Wallace has not been at the races for a while now, to be honest, in my opinion. Even yesterday in Costa Coffee, when I saw him yesterday morning, he looked wobbly. Boyd was in the first half. He looked at least 2 yards off the pace. Looked really slow. Just didn't like he was. I don't know. I looked like I could play better than him at that point. But second half, he came in and did all right and got that goal, which was a little weird, wasn't it? Obviously, I think the goalkeeper was expecting a back pass or something from one of their defenders and moved to one side and almost let it in. But yeah, he played better second half. But first half, there was a lot of people around me saying this guy doesn't look like he's interested. He just didn't. He looked so slow and not with the pace at all.
Did he offer enough for you to think maybe he's going to have a part to play now for the kind of I want to say the closing stages of this season? I mean, there's still a lot of football to be played, but in the games that come over the next 2-3 months.
Short answers now. Right. I don't think he gave enough. But I don't. What's the answer? Wallace is not in form.
Poughkeepsie, or whatever he's called.
Who?
I don't know his name, but it reminds me of, there's a song where it says, caught a train to Poughkeepsie, and I kind of think he's called Poughkeepsie now. But it sounds a bit like that. He's new, isn't he?
I have no idea what you're talking about at all.
What's his name? Poughkeepsie? Something like that. Poughkeepsie?
Keep going, Vic.
Poughkeepsie.
All right.
Yes,
he's a defensive.
You pull your Pessy.
It's defensive midfielder. You can't play him on the right wing.
No.
Oh, I didn't realise that's where Boyd had played, to be fair. Sorry, I thought I kind of got the impression that he'd been put in centre mid for some reason.
It was that three in the middle, that three in the kind of whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a narrow formation, isn't it? But we've been playing Wallace on the kind of the effectively the right of it, although it's quite fluid, but it still doesn't seem to. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to suit him. We're jumping ahead a bit, but he looked very out of sorts in the Middlesbrough game. Before we move on,
the thing is with Wallace, like we've said before, some players and some people at the club got a year too long last season. And Wallace was one of them, unfortunately. And I think there's been a few shots he's had recently. It sounded like he had 1 or 2 against Reading, and 2-3 years ago they would have gone in, no questions asked. But now they're not. And I think he'd do a great job for somebody else in League One, League Two. But for us now, get in Poughkeepsie.
We're going to have to practice that one, aren't we? Before we move on from the Reading game, I mean, to be fair, there were a lot of people that we kind of could talk about and talk about their performance. For example, Pelopessi, or Pessi as I prefer to call him. Obviously, it was his first game, and from what I hear, he was lucky not to get sent off within the first couple of minutes. It was also obviously first game back for Louvens. But I was particularly interested in Cameron Dawson, because this is a guy that's had a kind of an odd career with us, because he was thrust into the first team for a few games last season because there were just no other options. He's kind of been out on loan, then he's come back. He's getting a little bit of game time now. And again, from what I hear, it was a pretty decent performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded good. Obviously, the 1 goal that we let in wasn't great. Was that his fault? I don't know. One thing that really bugs me, right, is that on the radio and on Sky Sports and whatever, they gave that as an own goal to Cameron Dawson. Now, in my mind, unless you're a keeper and you deliberately turn around and hoof it into your own goal, I don't see how a keeper can give an own goal. I don't understand that, and I think that's really unfair. I think it's a deflection no matter what.
Pretty sure it hit him and went in now.
Yeah, it did, but that's not necessarily an own goal. I would say as a keeper, you should be kind of, and especially at his age, I just feel really bad that he's got that on his record, to be honest.
I tell you what, I thought I was sat up that the second half. He was obviously, we were sat up the scoreboard end of the ground, big screen, whatever you want to call it, and he was pretty much in front of me, and he made a double save at one point, which was absolutely out of this world, an absolutely fantastic save. And don't you just wish we got kind of in every position we had 3 players as good as we've got goalkeepers right now. You look at Wildsmith,
that's been the same story for so many years, hasn't it?
If we had 2 or 3 players in every position. Yeah, we have, and we've got 3 really good keepers at the minute.
We seem to be. If you're a good keeper, or you're a keeper that's kind of fledging a bit in your career, you come to Wednesday and you become a bloody good keeper. Now, whether that's Andy Rhodes, whether that's whoever we've had in before, I don't know, or whether it's the fact that our defence has been so damn awful that you've had to kind of pick your game up and become a good keeper. But the thing is, Dawson and Wildsmith are the same age, I think, or maybe a year between them. And I do think Wildsmith is light years ahead of Dawson. However, he did show, I've only seen the highlights, like I said, but he did show some really, really good saves the other night and some really good skill as well, just off the ball completely, where you could see he was getting into the position that he was watching that ball for the whole match. He wasn't farting about restrapping his gloves. Like, they've not come undone, mate. What are you doing? Like, unstrapping his gloves, restrapping them, putting a towel over his head, all that crap. He didn't do any of that. He seemed to be watching every ball.
I'll tell you what was really impressive as well was his kicking. He was actually kicking the ball and finding a player to his feet. So he kind of, the getting out of his hands straight to a player, and he did it on numerous occasions as well. I just thought he looked fantastic, Dawson, and on current form, it's just we've got 2 good keepers that would probably keep Westwood out when he gets back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's something we'll probably talk about a little bit later on as well. But I mean, for the lad, he's played 2 games now, both in the cup. I can't remember. I don't think he played in the Carlisle away game, but I can't really remember. But certainly the replay at Hillsborough, and then that game against Reading, and for 170 odd minutes he kept a clean sheet, and then it sounds like a relatively unlucky goal that kind of went in against him. So I think it'll give the lad a lot of of confidence, and you know, he's really kind of staking his claim to be there or thereabouts in terms of the first team squad, which has got to be great. Rich, anything else from the Reading game that's worth a mention?
I don't think so. I think obviously Dawson stood out, like I said. Atty did stand out and had a good game, Vic. There we go. You've heard it. I've said it. Fair play to him. Still not convinced by him, but yeah, it was. I think generally the second half just it was more impressive, and Reading weren't a great side, but they'd only dropped one or two of their first team, I think. So yeah, a good performance, and into the next round, all good.
So the game's coming thick and fast at the moment, and Tuesday night, the game that was supposed to be on Saturday but got cancelled for the FA Cup game, which was on Friday, we were off to Middlesbrough. Now, it's not that long since we played Middlesbrough. Indeed, when we did play them in December, it was Carlos's last game. It was also the game after which their manager, Gary Monk, got sacked as well, which I think we'd all say kind of does feel like 2 minutes ago, doesn't it? It was literally just before Christmas, so a very quick turnaround to be playing them away in the league. Probably as well a game that we were a little nervous about, bearing in mind the fact that they've hit a bit of form. They're up there or thereabouts in terms of the top six. And I said, you know, a week ago, sat here, said I'd be absolutely over the moon with a 0-0 to have got through the rest of the games in January without conceding a goal. And I mean, I would say when the team news came out, it was pretty obvious that we were probably playing for a 0-0, playing a 5-4-1 formation that was it was relatively defensive and kind of designed to not concede and maybe try and nick a goal. But I mean, there was some. I thought there were some really good individual performances. I'm going to give credit here to Pesci on his league debut. I thought there were times where he was a little shaky. There were a few things where you could tell that he's not quite up to pace in the Championship. But I thought this is a guy that's got something about him. I thought he was putting himself about the pitch a lot, and I thought there were a lot of real positives to take from his performance. I thought Reach, as he has done for a while, was really good and was the one player that was kind of really putting his foot on the ball and looked like he was going to do something. But I've got to say, I thought man of the match, just in terms of the saves that he made to keep us in the game, would be old Joey. And I told him when we woke up on Wednesday morning, I said, Joey, I thought you were brilliant. That was a man of the match performance there.
Wake up, James.
James. Hashtag damn fudge. Hashtag didn't happen.
All right, fair enough. But I did think, I mean, Borough. I don't know if either of you two watched it. Borough threw kind of the kitchen sink at us at times, and it was one of those games where I think defensively I can't say that we looked comfortable. I can't say that we looked particularly vulnerable. But Borough did create a few chances, and there were times where Wildsmith really kept us in that game. What did you make of it?
I'm not going to lie, guys. I went out with my friend the other night and made her try on wedding dresses and then got really drunk. So I couldn't even tell you the score. Sorry.
And I'll be really honest too. I literally got up next morning and thought, oh shit, we played last night, didn't we? I'd Middlesbrough game completely passed me by. So I apologise. I can't give you anything other than it was 0-0, wasn't it?
It's on you, this, James. Sorry.
I mean, guys, fantastic analysis, and I'm really glad that you're here tonight because I don't know how we'd get through this section without what you've.
Do you know what? If I had one of those big screens that I could draw circles around people and shit, I'd be doing it right now. But I'd just be drawing Prosecco glasses because that's all I know about that night.
But I could sit here and be all football 11, couldn't I? Oh, they were rubbish. Wednesday were rubbish on the night. Did you go? No. I listened to it on radio. I didn't even listen to the radio, so I couldn't even, blag that. Well,
I mean, to be fair, respect for your honesty. At least you both admitted it. Yeah, I mean, I would summarise it as we were all right. We were kind of hanging on towards the end. I don't know if you saw much in terms of the fact that with about 10 minutes to go, we took off Wallace. We brought on Frederick Nielsen, and we literally played with 4 centre halves and 2 fullbacks. We played with a back 6 for the last few minutes of that game, which I can't remember the last time I saw a back six by any team in the league. But you know what? He's not taking any chances. He went there with the intention of, we're not going to concede. If we snatch a goal, great, but we're not going to concede. And we didn't. And we rode our luck a bit. I think they hit the post at some point. There were a couple of times where you kind of just thought, how did they not score there? At the other end, we had a shot on target. That was kind of like the highlight of the game. We never looked like we were particularly going to score, although I tell you what I thought. I thought it was the kind of game where if we'd just got maybe 2 or 3 of our first team players back, I could see a couple of those chances that were kind of half chances and didn't really come to anything. They could have gone somewhere. There were times where we had some nice possession. We knocked the ball all right, and we just didn't have that instinct in the final third. We couldn't find that killer pass that was going to create a goal scoring opportunity. So I thought, again, got to take the positives from it. We've got through. Let's pretend the Burton game never happened, right? Let's write that off. Let's get some permanent marker and a Sharpie pen, scribble over it as if it never happened. Let's just say we got through January
on my brain
without. Well, other than that, we got through January -1 day without conceding a goal in the league, and we had some incredibly hard games. We had United away, Borough away, both top 6 teams. Cardiff at Hillsborough, also a top 6 team, and we've not conceded a goal, and that's great.
James, speaking of positives from Middlesbrough, didn't Dan Fudge turn up? Or was that a random photo that he sent earlier?
No, that was from a year ago. That was from.
Oh, because I was thinking it's a long way to travel. He can't even be arsed on a Saturday afternoon, but yet he can get to Middlesbrough. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
No, that was that. It must have come up on his time up or something. No, that was from Bristol City, which was exactly a year ago, where that exact thing happened. Though I was sat in the pub with my mate John and a couple of mates that we met
it's the one where you fell out, isn't it?
And Dan Fudge walks in with his mate, and I'm like, "What? You didn't know that I was in here? How are you?" And he just happened to have picked the same pub to walk in. I'm like, "You weren't even going to tell me that you were here, were you? It's just by chance that you've walked in."
I remember you getting quite upset about that.
I was, and when I think I've kind of got a tear in my eyes to talk about it now. Kind of still hurts me.
The thing is, none of us like him. We just let him on every week because he's one of the originals. So just don't you worry about it.
Hey ho. So anyway, lots of positives there to take from it, but I think we've got to at least pay a little bit of attention. We've got to at least touch on the issue of dry January, because we haven't scored a league goal.
What's that mean?
We haven't scored a league goal in the whole month. And in fact, it's probably a little bit before that. I think it was the Middlesbrough game when Carlos got sacked and Gary Monk got sacked was actually the last time that we scored a league goal. I stand to be corrected on that, but actually no, it would have been Forest, wouldn't it? We scored a few at Forest.
Yes,
Forest.
That would have been the last time that we that we scored. So
how shit must they be?
It's a bit of a worry, because without scoring goals, we aren't going to win games. I've got a mate that's done some calculations, and if we draw every game for the rest of the season 0-0, we will probably stay up, because we'll have 50 points, which should be enough to stay in the league probably fairly comfortably. Positive. So as long as we don't concede any more goals, then we're going to be all right. But look, I mean, this is a worry, isn't it? But with such a patched up team, how big a worry is it? Because I kind of think, well, yeah, we're not scoring, but when we get some players back, I can see it coming. So are you guys worried?
Not at all. So he's come in and got hold of a team who were playing abjectly to the point where we just didn't even want to watch them play. No, yeah, all right, we're watching 0-0s, but they're fairly entertaining 0-0s. But from any team, you've got to work on a spine of a team first, haven't you, and from the back. So if he starts to get in the back, all right, with literally not first teamers as it stands, no Lees, no whoever else, it's regulars, centre halves. If we can start from that perspective and start getting clean sheets when we haven't got the kind of the first team as such out because they're all injured, then that's surely a positive. And as we build and as it goes to go on, this I think we're all realistic. There's no playoffs this year. There's no promotion happening. We know that we're not daft. So let's
We might miss the royal wedding, though. Who knows? Who knows? If we get to the FA Cup final, I mean, for me, it's going to be an emotional weekend anyway. That because of the royal wedding, and I would quite like an excuse to go to London and wear a Wednesday shirt, but also carry a few little Union Jacks in my back pocket to stand outside Buckingham Palace.
What the
anyway,
hell?
As I was saying,
there's no other hope of anything, is there? That's the thing. That's the point, though. We've got no hope of anything. We knew that from God knows when. Like probably 3 games before Carlos went, we knew we'd absolutely foobarred it up.
But do you mean no hope in terms of achieving something this season, or do you mean no hope in terms of there's no hope anymore? Because I'm feeling a lot of hope at the moment in terms of the fact that we seem to be back onto a positive trajectory. It's better
if you get given a pile of sand and get told to make a castle without any water, you're going to struggle, aren't you? And I think Joss has come in and he's done well with that. But he was, let's be honest, left with a pile of shite, not sand. He was left with an absolute shot to death team that had nothing going for it. And by that point, we'd all kind of gone, do you know what? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? Like, sod it. We've given up now. We'll probably struggle. We'll be all right. Have we got any fight in us to struggle, etc. Obviously, the deal was done. Obviously, what's his face is flying high with Swansea. Whatever, can beat Liverpool. Whatever. But we've brought in somebody now who, like Rich said, is building from the back with Zhao in attack. But he's building from the back now. That we were talking about in the pub after the game the other week. That now the defence feel more confident that they can start to play forward, and then midfield will feel more confident to start to put goals into the up front. And up front are going to feel like they don't have to win goals back; they just have to score. Their job is to go out onto a football pitch and to score goals, not to balance out the game and not to pull one back. It is to go out there and score a goal. And if they're feeling more confident that we're not going to be conceding as many, they're probably going to feel a bit better about just having a shot. Like, sod it, I'll have a go. Why not? And eventually one of those is going to go in. However, I do think we've got to look at, Matthias and Nuhiu. As much as, people want to slate them on this podcast, and that's fine. But the fact is, the other night, between them, that over the last few games, there's been quite a few goals between them, and we can't fault them for that. And we've got to say, you only have to, like, I've got Instagram and I've got Snapchat. I don't know how to use Snapchat. I've got no idea what I'm doing. But I know on Instagram, for example, like Zhao and Nuhiu and Matthias are always together, like they're best of friends. And I think actually there's probably something to be said for that. These 3 lads who've been like best of mates have been left on the sidelines for a long time. And probably haven't been bitching about it, but have probably been quite frustrated for each other as friends and for themselves. And now they've got an opportunity, and I'd keep at it. They've got no reason to lose their place. I think it would be so unfair to lose their place, the same as I think it would be for Wildsmith to lose his place. Because they've been doing an all right job. And I think from now on, push forwards, it's been a dry January and all that, but it was pretty dry before that, let's be honest. We might have scored, but we conceded 3 or 4. So now we've just got to push forward and think, all right, we might have a couple of 0-0s, but we've probably got people out there now who are getting more and more confidence the more they play, and the more they're going to score goals eventually.
On the subject of Nuhiu and Matthias up front, obviously on Tuesday night, neither of them played. Matthias wasn't involved at all, so we assume that he's picked up a knock or something. Okay. Are we now in a situation whereby if you can't play both of them, you don't play either of them? Is it just the fact that they work so well off each other? Because can you see a combination of Nuhiu and Zhao working together? Because I kind of struggle with that idea.
Yeah.
They seem a little bit too similar, really.
I think Zhao and Nuhiu are quite similar, but I think even if you started with somebody else alongside Zhao or alongside Nuhiu, there's no reason why he shouldn't start. He's proved himself over the last couple of weeks. But I think Zhao would, let's be honest, be your first choice, sort of out of the dross the people that we've got. You would pick Zhao.
You call Atty dross there, by the way?
No.
Okay,
Sorry, not Atty and Zhao. But,
of course not.
There's not a lot else to shout about, is there? Let's be honest. So who else would you pick? And I do agree that I think they're quite similar. So maybe not start them together. But I don't see why, after however many minutes of Jordan Rhodes floating about like a salmon and heading it the wrong way, why you wouldn't bring on Atty to play alongside Zhao, because I think, actually, you know what, and there's a lot to be said for being good mates with someone. You know, the young lads are in a foreign country, they don't know anybody, they probably spend the majority of their time with each other, and therefore they build... You think about it in any job. If you get on with somebody, you're bound to work better with somebody. If someone's a complete arsehole or you just don't click, you don't do as well together at work. And that's what you've got to think about. I mean, I'd give them a shot. You know, I'd probably, like I said, I wouldn't start them. I'd probably start one or the other with Matthias if he's fit.
Vic, can I throw a spanner in your theory?
Yeah.
I was in Meadowhall on Saturday, last Saturday.
If you tripped up Matty, I will shoot you in the face.
No. Buying Reese a pair of trainers in JD Sports. And Zhao was in there. Mm. There was no Matthias and Nuyo.
Oh, I know, yeah. But you look at their Instagram, pal, and I swear to God, every day they're in somebody's Range Rover listening to some awful Euro rap, just bopping along to each other. But what I mean is it always seems to be the three of them together whenever they film videos of them having a meal on a Saturday night. I think if they're the three that get on, I think that's a good thing. And we've talked about it before. You poo-poo me now, but when we were talking about Wembley and stuff, no, hold on. We were talking about how great everyone got on together and how nice it was to have a camaraderie. When Chuffing Reader was on, that was all anyone could talk about to him, and Peacock. And now we've got three people that get on really, really well. And I think it's something to push upon and to get on with it. And Palmer also seems to be involved in that, to be fair. But I do think, you know, it's all well and good when it's a team that's doing amazing, but as soon as they're not doing that well, it's a laughing matter.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, a wedding or anniversary, maybe you've passed your driving test, or you've landed a new job. Well, whatever your reason for a party, the Riverside Cafe is the perfect location on Catch Bar Lane overlooking Hillsborough Stadium. To inquire about hiring us for your function, call 07989 856 054 or 0114 232 6121. So transfer deadline day has been and gone. The window is closed. For the last few, we've done this. We've done the podcast during the last hour of the window, mainly so that I could do this. Hang on. But we didn't this time, I think mainly because we knew it was going to be pretty boring. So we just sort of left that to the Owls of Berrycast, who did theirs during the last hour. But I mean, not a lot happened.
I'm going to pick you up there. I'm going to pick you up. I think the reason you did not want to do it live this time was because on my time hop this time last year, you agreed to marry me if we signed Jordan Rhodes. And I think this time...
Well, don't check back through my tweets from 2 years ago.
That was during August, the August transfer window last year.
No, the August transfer. Yeah, well, it came up on my...
And you reposted it in December.
Oh, right.
I threatened to do something. You're going to have to look back for it now. I'm not telling you what it was, but I threatened to do something that wouldn't be really pretty for most of the population of Sheffield if we signed Jordan Rhodes.
It was supposed to be streaking down West Street, wasn't it?
Oh, fucking hell, how do you remember? It wasn't West Street, but it was a streaking thing, yeah. Look at you, remembering that.
Is it Fielding Road?
I remember the irrelevant stuff. I don't remember the stuff that matters. But anyway, it was transfer deadline, been and gone. You no streaking involved this time around, but not a lot happened. It was the quietest we've had for quite a while, actually, after the last few years have been generally quite action-packed. So actually the only business at all that took place at Essex on transfer deadline day was at 10:30 in the morning, and that was Matt Penny going on loan to Mansfield. He's a very kind of bright, well thought of prospect. So this has got to be a good move for him, hasn't it, Rich?
I think so, yeah. I think I kind of got a little bit of history with Matt Penny. I went to Italy with the Young Owls and one of the coaches, John Williams, with Wednesday night back in 2010, I think, to Serrano. And he was one of the Young Owls team that day. And look, there's a few players that kind of stood out that day, but he was one of them. And I think now he's obviously come through the ranks and is looking at quite a good prospect from. I don't see much of the U team. I've seen him occasionally, but when I have seen him play, it looks a half decent player.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw him in the academy playoff game, whatever it was, at the back end of last season at Hillsborough against Hull, and he looked excellent that day. Really did stand out as being just that level above a lot of other players on the pitch. So this has got to kind of help his development. Probably the other big headline from transfer deadline day was just a year after he came in, and we all rejoiced, and Vic went to pick wedding rings, and Rich got his mankini out. Jordan Rhodes was linked with a move away, and linked with various teams during the day. So at various separate points, he was linked with Sunderland, he was linked with Ipswich, he was sort of linked with Preston, although I don't think there was anything in that. I think that was just Preston fans making it up. And he was linked with Wolves. But ultimately, he's not going anywhere. If you've listened to the Financial Fair Play pod, you'll know that it's a bit of a complicated situation with Jordan Rhodes, because there isn't really a scenario whereby we can sell him and it not make us worse off in terms of the accounts. But there was a lot of talk about possibly a loan deal. I kind of feel like, in a way, I'm sort of in the minority on this one, but I was really pleased. I'm really glad that he's staying, because I don't think we've really seen yet what kind of, in terms of coming forward, what kind of a manager Jos is, what kind of a system he wants us to play, and what he can get out of Jordan Rhodes, because there is no doubt all that this guy can score goals, because he's scored goals at every club that he's been at. It's not happened for him at Wednesday yet, and we can all debate the reasons for that, but I would describe it this way: there's a reason why the team that are runaway leaders of the league in Wolves wanted to sign him, and it's not so that he could sit in the reserves and not be playing games. So I'm really happy that he's still around, and I'm really hopeful that this is the point now where he starts to come good.
I agree, James. I think, and I've been banging about this ever since we signed him, that there is a 20-goal a season striker there, without a doubt. Carlos never played to his strengths, I don't think, and I think all part of this building now that Jos is doing. I think Rhodes will be a key part of it eventually. We just need to get to a point where we've got all that kind of team where we can play to his strengths, firing, and I think he'll come good. I really do. Just think we've got to be a little bit patient, but it might be next season before we start seeing it all kicking in, and that's generally for the team anyway.
Of course, the other player that was linked with a move away early in the day, and it went kind of pretty quickly. This one, it passed fairly quickly. I'm afraid to say, was Atty, who was linked with a move to Sunderland. Now, for a very short amount of time, this looked like it might have some legs, but of course, ultimately it didn't happen. And Vic, of course, Atty is staying, which I'm sure you're rejoicing about. But a genuine question at this point, because he is out of contract in the summer. So if we were going to sell him and get something for him, this was the last point at which we could do it. So we're heading towards a point now whereby Atty either goes for free, or we've got to give him a new contract, and obviously we've got to do that in the not too distant future. Yeah. So what in your view, what would you do?
In all seriousness, right, I don't want to be too biased about the situation, but I do think that like Lukai will see something in him after the last few games, and I would hope that he would 10 times prove that over the rest of the season. I would like to see him be kept on. I don't think he's one of our biggest earners. I think he's evidently got something in the dressing room. I'm taking away my complete bias from this, by the way. When people score, when Fessy scored, when other people have scored, they run straight over to him. They do. Even when he's warming up, even when he's sat on the bench, he's the person that they run to. And I think there's a lot to be said, and he's a bit of a hate figure sometimes on this podcast. But I think if it was Semedo, we'd all be saying the same. He's not an old guy. He's still got something in him. He still proves himself. And I'm just, oh God, I've never been more glad that Chelsea managed to sign Olivier Giroud, to be honest, because they were on the lookout for such a big lone front man. And I was getting to the end of my tether the other night. But as soon as Giroud was announced, I was quite happy with that. But in all seriousness, no, I think another year. I don't think it would kill us. I think we've got more than enough of our money out of him for what we paid for him. He's still an international. He's still got goals in him. I think he's still got games in him. He's, like I said, I think he's younger than me. I think he's about 28, 29. I think there's something to be said about Atty, and I think this year, like I've said before on the podcast, I think people have warmed to him a bit. Mainly, well, not mainly, but I wouldn't say it's a complete coincidence that the Leon Clark scenario has happened, where Leon has suddenly turned good, and I think people have warmed to Atty in that respect as well, and thought, hold on a minute, maybe I'm not seeing everything here. And I've noticed that in the pub and with a few conversations with people. But I do think, take away the football, like completely take it away. I think there's something big there in the dressing room, and I think another year it won't kill us. And then, you know, maybe if we sign him for another year in July, August, whatever, then maybe next January we might get a fee for him if he's not doing the job. If he is doing the job, then we've not done a bad deal, have we?
Vic, I agree with you. He's 28, just for the record, but I agree with you. I think we should give him another year at the end of the season.
I literally just spat out my water.
Do you know what?
Are you kidding me?
I agree as well. I agree as well.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I feel that. From my point of view, I'll tell you what it is. Well, I think we can guess what Lord H should say. I think every team needs a player like that. Every team does need a player that's a bit of a lump that gives you a different option in a game. And I think having seen quite a bit of João over the last couple of months since he's kind of been back in the team, he doesn't really play that role. We know that Rhodes doesn't really play that role. The only person that we've got that plays that role is Nuhiu. And we would probably have to decide whether or not we're going to offer him a contract before we know for definite whether we can bring in a better version of Nuhiu that gives us that option when we need it in certain games. So if we haven't already brought them in, which we haven't done, then I'm not sure whether or not it's likely to happen in the summer for us to be able to find someone that can do a better job than him at doing what he does. Because I've got to give him his credit. You know, he is good at doing what he does. He is really good at doing what he does. He doesn't score many goals, and I know he scored 3 in January, but that takes his tally for the last 3 years to 4, which is not exactly on the prolific side. I think 3 seasons. I think now he scored 4 goals.
My thing on why
Betham getting married on him, and I was coming close to actually getting married. I was quite worried about it. So is that more than 3 years? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, he's probably one of our longest-serving players, actually, isn't he? Thinking about it like that, if you're saying 3 years, he's probably up there with Liam Palmer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
My theory is he's standing out because the rest of them have been utter dross before let's say before the Burton game and before they've been poor. So he stood out because nobody else has.
And he wants to stand out as well. I think that's the thing. I think, and you know, like we've all said tonight, this is not a promotion battle now. This is potentially avoiding a relegation scrap. That's the most we can hope for now, is to stay out of the bottom 3, to finish comfortably mid-table. That's what we want. So therefore, like, he's not going to be that promotion hero. He's not, you know, I would kill for him to be, but he's not going to be, because we're not going to get to that point. So we're never going to, I don't know, I think that we need somebody like him around now. I really, really do. And I think for the rest of the season and beyond, I would get, like I said, I'd give him another year. Like you said, he's only 28, maybe another couple of years. But I do think, I honestly, I swear to God, and I'm not trying to be biased here, and I've heard this from a few other people, I think somebody higher could come in for him and he could do a really, really good job for them. Whether it was as a sub, whether it was just in the dressing room, he could really make a difference to a team. And I think the minute he leaves, we'll all realise that.
Possibly. I think what you say about the fact that he clearly has an effect, away from just the football. He, in terms of the squad, clearly is a very popular guy and clearly has an effect on a lot of players. We know he speaks a ridiculous number of languages as well. Now we don't know, what effect that has and how useful he is in that sense. And
he's got a ridiculous number of nationalities, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Bloody hell, what is he?
But we're in a situation right now, if we'd have kept Jose Semedo in the summer, he'd probably be the first name on the team sheet at the moment. He'd be starting every game in central midfield, and he'd be kind of holding things together a bit. And I think that we'd probably look back at releasing Semedo now and saying that it was probably actually a mistake. We could have done with him around the team. We've been saying all season we've been really sadly lacking in leaders on the pitch and probably off the pitch as well. And it's no coincidence that things have sort of fallen apart and he's not been around. So if Atty does have a bigger role to play in the wider kind of scheme of Sheffield Wednesday, I would hate to think that he's going to be starting every game. I think he's a good option off the bench in certain games, and certainly in terms of the cup teams and stuff like that. Then he's got a role to play he could have a role to play next season.
But I think that says a lot about him, James,
cost us, and what it cost for us to get someone else in that can do a similar sort of job. Maybe it is right that he stays for a bit longer.
And the thing is, as well, like you said, yeah, he's one of those subs that you can bring on that will just FSU with people. He will just come on and scare defences because they're used to quick, nippy wingers. All of a sudden, they've got somebody who's going to, he'll stand up straight. You can punch him in the face. He won't care. He'll just keep going. He'll keep trying for the ball. But at the same time, he could also be somebody that you could put in a starting team and no one would really question it at the moment, I don't think. So he's kind of a shock player in either sense of the word. And I think that bodes well with opposition managers who are going to be like, are they going to start Atty? Are they going to not bring him on? Are they going to bring him on at 60 minutes? They're going to do that. So I think he's also a psychologically messing up player for other teams.
You realise the fact that all three of us have said we give him a new contract means there is absolutely no chance that he will get a new contract. Correct. He is definitely leaving. There's no doubt about that now.
Reverse psychology.
For all three of us to agree on something, which very rarely happens, mean it is almost certainly wrong. Right, looking at other stuff then from deadline day, and actually not just that, from the transfer window as a whole. Obviously Pesci came in, but there were no other incomings, no other players at all, and I think we were all kind of led to believe from what Carlos had said towards the latter stage of his time and what Jos said when he's been asked about it, is that it was likely that we'd be looking towards probably a few loans to help bolster the squad and get us through the injury problems, and ultimately we've not brought in any players on loan, which is maybe a bit of a surprise. We certainly had a try with the guy from Man City, whose name I can't remember, and it became pretty obvious due to the fact that he was actually in their squad and on the bench for their game last night that one wasn't going to come off. I think they've got defensive issues of their own. Yeah, a bit of a surprise that no one else came in, given our current problems. Would you guys agree?
I don't think the new gaffer has been in place long enough yet to have that sort of confidence with signing players. He's made it quite obvious that he doesn't know much about English football. Anyone that doesn't know Neil Warnock as a manager probably doesn't know that much about English football. So he's probably, I think for him, he's been given the job now to keep us up. And he knows that he can do that. He's quite confident with that, with the players that he sees Monday to Friday on the pitch at the training ground. And therefore, he's probably going to give it a few months and get used to the league, get used to the players that he can see, get used to what we've got in the squad, get used to his budget that he's got, and then try and test the water in the summer. And I think that's probably quite a sensible thing to do. I think we saw, as much as we don't want to slate Carlos, we don't want to slag off a lot of the people that Carlos brought in, but for probably every two that he brought in, there was one that either never played or just disappeared off the face of the earth. And actually, I think it's quite nice that the new manager's given it some time. And I would 100% bet that Mr. Chansiri's checkbook was there and ready and open should he need it. But he's probably said to himself, like, I've got a decent squad here. Like, these guys have hit the playoffs twice. I've got better players since both times that they've done that. And I need to see how the land lies before I go out and sign more players and ruffle feathers as well, because it does. And you don't want to upset the main team by bringing in somebody that you're actually never going to play, which we've seen happen in the last couple of years. So I think he's done a really good job.
Obviously, he's put more investment into or more trust into youth players and academy players than perhaps we have done for a little while. But Rich, I mean, we've got a heck of a lot of players to come back from injury, and certainly with some of them, they've been out for that long that they are going to feel a little bit like new signings. I mean, we've effectively got an entire first team to come back over the next few weeks.
Absolutely, yes, and that's a big positive, as we see these come back. I mean, I think Fessie's is he March, so that's only a month away, and obviously Bannon's back in training, as is Lee. I think is it Lee's or Lee? I can't remember which one I read was back in training. It might be both.
It's
both
Lee's, yeah.
It's Lee's. So there's a lot of positives there in that respect. But what I really like is they are giving youth a chance, which Carlos never did. And we have got some good youngsters there, and we've seen that. We've seen Thornley now play a few games and look absolutely astute at the back. So these are all opportunities for these kids where they are injured. But yeah. What was it that Alan Hansen said? Kids won't win the title, but they did at Man U. I'm sure we're not going to get that scenario at Hillsborough, but it's we've got some real positives with players that are due to come back. It's I'm a lot more optimistic now than I was a month ago.
In terms of the players that we've got to come back, obviously we know that Bannon is probably the closest, as you mentioned. Tom Lees is back in training. I think from earlier on this week he got back into training. Van Aken seems to be relatively close. Westwood we know is definitely back in training, although we're probably not rushing him too much. Yeah. Who do you think we kind of need back the soonest? Where are we most in need?
I think for me probably the midfield there, just to kind of get the quality players who've got some time on the ball. And I want to say Fessy, but that's I don't know.
No, 100%. I agree. 100% Fessy.
Yeah, I think he's got some. No, has he got anything to prove? No, he hasn't really.
I think he's the difference between 18th and 12th. To be honest with you, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he'll be up for it, won't he? It will be like a new sign. It'll be fresh, relatively fresh. You would have thought. He's not played an awful lot of football, so he's not going to come back tired, is he?
I would say Hooper. I think that Hooper's the guy that we really miss at the moment. I think he does something that's, in a way, I would argue that he's probably one of, if not the best in the league at doing that Gary Hooper role. I think he's excellent at that, and you can't have no team is going to have a Gary Hooper in reserve to play Gary Hooper when Gary Hooper's not fit, if that makes sense, because he's just too good. We're lucky to have him. He could be a Premier League player, really, Hooper. So I think we're vastly missing him. But you could probably say it for
could have been Premier League players if not been injured.
Yeah, exactly. I think that comes down to a lot of the players that we've signed over the last 10 years, doesn't it, really? When we say they could have been Premier League if it wasn't for, and it's usually injury. Or with Westwood, you say he could be England's number one if he could distribute better. Or there's numerous things that we say about people. And unfortunately, as the club that we are at the moment, with the chip on our shoulder that we have, we often think, we should have the Girouds of the world wanting to sign Sheffield Wednesday. But actually, we're going to get the Gary Hoopers of the world who could be world class, but they've got those injuries. But Kieran Lee could have played for Man United, but he got injured all the time. And that's what we've got to kind of look at, isn't it? My other person to mention would be Fletcher as well. I think Hooper and Fletcher are, to me, our first two every time. And I do think we miss both of them equally.
See, I'm not Fletcher. He has spells, doesn't he, where he plays all right for a bit, and then I don't know. Not convinced.
He has spells when he gets assists and not goals, and everyone kicks off that he's not scoring. And I think actually, alongside Hooper, who do we have that is better alongside Hooper than him? That's the question. Maybe Matthias, maybe.
You know what? I'd completely forgot about Stephen Fletcher. I kind of forgot that he existed, because I think before he got injured, he was getting a lot of stick from the fan base. People were giving him some stick because he wasn't in great form. Maybe he was carrying an injury. I'm not entirely sure on that front. But it's just reminded me earlier when I was saying, who is there anyone that plays the Atty role that well? And I'm thinking, of course, yeah, Fletcher plays that role better than, or as good as, if not better than Atty knew you. But I'd completely forgot they existed. Yeah. Blimey.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I said, they will be my top two, like always. I think, Hooper's best games that he's had for us this season have been with Fletcher alongside him, no question. And I think sometimes you especially with strikers, you overlook the non-scoring, non-glory boy because you see the glory that Gary Hooper gets. But actually, you forget that alongside that was, Stephen Fletcher and his hairline. So I think I'd love to see them both back. I would absolutely love it, and I would happily give Atty a space on the bench if both of those can be playing every week.
But just the fact alone that we're talking about number of strikers that we've got that injured or not, so Fletcher, Rhodes.
I haven't said the R word. I haven't said the R word.
Etc. We've got quite a lot of strikers there to pull from, and when they come back from injury, we should be. It gives him a nice problem to have. Which two would you pick out of about 6?
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting with the new manager as well to see whether Fessy is a striker or isn't, or he's back. I think most of us would agree that on the wing he's a better platter, and I think we get more
apart from him.
Apart from him,
he
that's
doesn't
what I
like
mean.
it, does he?
Or is he a better number 10?
Yeah, or a number 10 role. Yeah, exactly. But not as a front 2, I don't think. I think we've seen a few good games out of him as a number 9, if you like. But I do think that a 10 or a wing does suit him better and does suit our style of play better. And I think it'd be interesting to see with the new manager whether he gets put into that style of play, and well, A, if he gets put into that style of play, and B, if he enjoys it and if he does well from it. Because there's a lot to be said about his relationship with Carlos, and none of us know the ins and outs. Absolutely, none of us can claim to be in the know about that. None of us know. But I would be interested to see how he would do, either, like I said, on the wing, up front, number 10 role, whatever. But I do think that'll be interesting to look out for.
And of course, we've got Sammy Winnall to come back in the summer as well.
Absolutely,
so that adds another dimension to it. Right, let's talk. We'll go back to the FA Cup now because, of course, Monday night was the draw for the 5th round, and we all probably had certain games that we wanted to avoid. For me, I wanted to avoid Sheffield United. I'm quite happy to have put to bed the 2 Derby games, but then I was also thinking I'm not ready to face the X yet, and it was kind of it was written in the stars, wasn't it, that it was going to happen?
It was meant to be.
Yeah. So we are. I mean, to be fair, it could be Notts County. There is a replay yet before we know who it's going to be, but it's at the Liberty Stadium. You would imagine that as the Premier League team, Swansea are favourites. So we are looking at the potential return of Carlos to Hillsborough within 2 months of his departure. Vic, how do you feel about this?
As I said the other night, James, I feel like I've not stopped looking at his Facebook yet, and I've not stopped prank calling him just to hear his voice when he answers the phone. I think it's too soon. I think I'm still quite invested in that relationship. I've unfollowed him on Twitter. I'm not going to lie, he does still follow me. But I got a bit sick of it. I got a bit sick of, we've got really good friends at the Star in Chris and Dom and whoever else, but I got a little bit sick of every time Swansea won a game, I got a bit sick of hearing about it because I thought, well, that makes no point to me whatsoever now. That's completely irrelevant. It's like, and I used to mention it a lot at the time, but when United are in a different league to us and they put up the scores when they're losing on the half-time board, and I think it makes no odds. Makes no difference to me whatsoever here this afternoon if they win or lose, and it's the same with Swansea. And I'm kind of just, I'm not angry about it. I wanted him to go. He left, great, but I don't feel like I need it all rubbing in my face at the moment. And at the moment, it does seem to be how much of a great job he's doing at Swansea, and I can't help but think, yeah, but he's going to cheat on you. He's going to be on Tinder any week next, anytime soon. But at the moment he isn't, and he seems quite happy with her, and she seems to be wonderful, and they seem to hold hands and look happy on the telly, but I don't want it rubbing in my face on a Saturday afternoon at Hillsborough. So come on, County.
I imagine he's probably on Tinder at the same time, just in case someone better comes along
we all know that,
he
don't we?
can leave for. There's still this Benfica thing in the background, but ignoring that, I would agree. I don't feel ready either, and I don't. The thing that I don't like about it is that it won't be about 11 players against 11 players, which is what a game like that should be about. It will be billed as, and I've got no doubt that it's been picked for TV on the basis of it's the return to Hillsborough of Carlos, who nearly got us to the Premier League before abandoning us to go and follow his Premier League dream elsewhere, and that's what it'll be about. And there'll be some fans that will give him a good reaction, and some fans.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. You know,
we put him in a caravan on the drive, didn't we? There was no option of him coming back in the marital bed. He was in that.
No, you're absolutely right. He was gone. But in terms of the media, that's how they'll bill it. That was my point. And there'll be some fans that welcome him back with open arms. There'll be some fans that give him a load of stick, that boo him, and it's just like I'm just not ready for it. I just don't want it. I would love it just to be about an FA Cup 5th round game, us playing a Premier League team who's going to win, and it's not going to be about that.
What I was hoping for from the draw was I got 2 scenarios. Was either one, a Coventry or whoever that was a fairly winnable tie that meant we could get onto the quarterfinals where we could get a bigger team. Oh, we just get that bigger team now at home. That was as long as we're at home. I was good.
The minute ball number 6 came out first, I was like, yes, come on, Man U.
But the scenario now is we either play Notts County or Swansea, and they're winnable games. They're absolutely winnable games for us. So I think there's a good opportunity for us to get into the quarterfinal and get that bigger team now. And if we go out to a Chelsea or a Man U or whoever's in, Chelsea still in, I don't even know, whoever at Hillsborough, that'd be great. Another bit of a day for us for what's been a pretty shit season to get a big side at Hillsborough. That'd be quite good, regardless of whoever comes back and whether we play Kevin Nolan or Mr. Carvalho.
Of course, it is Kevin Nolan, isn't it?
One of my biggest positives from this is that it's not been about, I hate the FA Cup, and like normally most seasons I'm like, let's concentrate on the league, da, 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 da. But actually I feel like this season I've found the magic of the FA Cup again. And I know it's the cliche that's said every single year, and don't get me wrong, to me the magic of the FA Cup is when it's a fireman playing up front against like Lukaku or whoever. But I think, which hasn't happened in a very long time because it's seeded wrong now. But I do think that it's kind of brought that passion back for me of the FA Cup that I've lost over the last probably 10 years now. In that I've kind of got that bit of hope again. But I know we've joked about it. I don't believe that I'm going to miss the royal wedding because I don't believe we're going to get to Wembley. But you know, there's that hope there. And I think after a season like we've had, like you just said, Rich, it's been pretty dire, you know, and we should probably thank our lucky stars, you know, compared to a lot of teams, we've had a pretty decent season. But I do think that this has given me just that little bit of excitement again, that this season had completely washed from my entire bloodstream. There had been no excitement since probably November. And all of a sudden I'm quite up for it. I'm going to buy a ticket for it.
Do you know what this is like?
They're only 15 quid, which is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Or 20 quid on the day, isn't it? Which isn't bad either, to be fair.
It's like a little bit. Is kind of we've had a bit of a. Carlos for me was something we'd been seeing for a while now. We got a little bit bored of him. It wasn't as good in the bedroom. You know, it was getting a bit dull, a bit dour, and we had to bin him off. And now it's kind of we're getting a little bit of excitement again, like first dating. And this is how it's feeling like with this FA Cup run. It's like first date, and we could have a really round about Valentine's Day. We could have a really nice time. Is that a good scenario? Or I'm a bit.
No, 100%. I agree.
I'm fuming on two fronts because I never, the idea of us getting into the 5th round was a bit, probably not going to happen. Certainly the 6th round, no chance at all. So the weekend that would be the 6th round game is when we're away to Leeds. Now, I never go to Leeds anyway. So I've booked, I'm going away, I'm on holiday, I'm out of the country. So if we get through to the 6th round, I'm not here, so I'll miss it, which annoys me. And I'm also annoyed about the fact that... So I said a few weeks ago I want us to go on an FA Cup run because we've got all these injury problems, so it will mean that some games get put back. Well, the Derby game, which is supposed to be the game we're playing on 5th round weekend, has been brought forward, not backwards. So we're playing it sooner than we would have been.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday, I think it's the 13th that it's been played. So it's barely.
I've got tickets for Fat Friends.
It's a couple of weeks away. So I'm fuming about that. I'm also out of the country, so I'll miss it. And I don't get back. I get back in the country about 7:05 that evening at Manchester Airport. So I've got no chance of getting back
for the
game. And it's also a pancake day, so it's like,
no, not Shrove Tuesday.
Yeah,
oh, for God's sake.
Who wants to go to a football game instead of staying at home
when you can be
all
tossing
evening?
all night long?
Yeah. So I'm fuming about it, and whoever's made that decision, well, we need words.
I am now. I was quite excited about going to the theatre. You just screwed that up. I'm off to the theatre. It's next weekend, really.
That Friends is on all week, though, isn't it, Vic?
Yeah, but I've already bought tickets, and Freddie Flintoff's in it.
And it's friend of mine's going on Saturday.
You can't. I'm already in London on the Saturday, seeing everybody's talk about Jamie. So no, I'm having a thespian week, I'm afraid. Sorry, Derby County, you'll just have to wait.
There we go. Right, next thing on my list to talk about is the January Player of the Month, and
Man of the Month.
Sorry, It is Man of the Month, which was our Joey. Joe Wildsmith won it, and to be fair to him, right, he hasn't conceded a goal under Jos Lahukai. He's not conceded a goal, and that, with the games we've had since Jos came in, is an amazing statistic, and he's some fantastic saves. So if we're going on the basis of the fact that when Jos came in, it was kind of a clean slate for everyone. So there was no kind of like, who is first choice goalkeeper, who is second choice goalkeeper. We had to play Wildsmith. He's not conceded a goal under the new manager. Westwood's got no chance of getting back in this team, has he?
I would hope not. I think I mentioned it earlier, Wildsmith's age, and I've just checked again, just to check that I wasn't going insane. And he literally turned 22 in December, at the end of December. And that for me is huge. I think someone to be pulling off the saves and have the confidence that he has at that age in any position is impressive. I think as a goalkeeper, he's filling out a lot. I think we've all noticed over the last year or so. No, but lads do, don't they? You get to hang
on. Let me note down the minutage here. Where was it? Did you listen to last week's podcast, Vic?
No, why?
We did pay reference to the fact that whenever we talk about Wildsmith, you talk about him filling out. He's been filling out for 4 years now. Every time.
Lads at 22 years old, he's still not at his full potential, if you like, as a stature of a man and as a goalkeeper. And
30s for a goalkeeper, isn't it?
Well,
that's when
mid to late 20s, yeah. I think he's done so well. And when you look, and you literally every time, you could get a striker, you can get a Lucas Shaw, who's probably a very, very similar age. I'm not 100% sure. But, somebody like that, a striker is different, and they have different twitch fibres in the muscles. They have different sort of ways of moving. And for someone at 22 to be doing as well as he is, I think it's
fibres, you just say.
Yeah, you have fast twitch and slow twitch fibres in your muscles. Fast twitch, you're better at sprinting. Slow twitch, you're better at doing things like goalkeeping or defending. If you've done GCSE or A-level.
We're a biology podcast now or something.
No, I'm saying. No, I'm just trying to put a point. James is allowed to put his clever point across. Let me mention my twitch fibres.
Well, I'm not clever. That's why I don't put it across.
When did I last put a clever point across? I'm not sure that's ever happened.
Well, anyway, I think at 22 to be doing the job that he's doing at his level, I think Jos has got to give him a chance. I don't think he's given him any reason not to give him a chance and to drop him.
Yeah, that's the point. There is no reason to drop him, is there? There really isn't. And it would be, I think, for anyone, when you do that good a job, if you then got dropped, I mean, that's going to just destroy you. That's going to kill your confidence, and I cannot see any reason at all for him to be dropped. Very quickly, can I ask you who you voted for, Rich?
You can ask me, and I voted for Padil.
Do you know what? So did I. I also voted for Padil, who didn't get in the top. He didn't get in the top three, to be fair.
No, he didn't. The results. I didn't. Wildsmith have won, but
it was Newey was second, and
that's Vic.
Venancio was
every
was
IP
third.
address you could find at work.
Well, I was going to ask this, Vic. I assume, did you vote for?
I actually voted for Venancio.
Oh, right.
Ooh.
No, I didn't really. I voted for Dupu.
No.
From every IP address you could
Just
find.
for a second, I had some newfound respect for you there.
I didn't even get the laptop
And he won
out.
this time. Are you sure?
Yeah, I actually, to be fair, I thought I knew Wildsmith would probably get ahead of the votes, and I thought I'm not even going to fuck this up for him. Like, I 100% believe he gets it, but I cannot do that to my man. So I just voted the once for my boy.
Right, let's look ahead then to to the weekend, and I've written down on my thing here Barnsley, and we don't play Barnsley at all this weekend, do we? We play Birmingham this weekend, and they, to be fair, have had a pretty disastrous season, but they did win on Tuesday night. They beat Sunderland, who are also having a fairly disastrous season. Now, we have kind of got through, in my mind, it feels like we've got through January. It's just been a matter of let's get through it without screwing things up completely. And the fact that, we've not conceded a goal in the league since Jos came in, I think, has been great. But we're getting into those games now where you look at and you think, right, these are the ones where we've got to turn that 0-0 draw into a victory. And this is a game on Saturday, Birmingham. It's the kind of game that we've got to be looking at getting something out of. We've really got to be looking at well, it's got to be 3 points. It has to be 3 points. In terms of the formation, 3-5-2 obviously is kind of what we've been doing under Jos. There was a slight variation on it on Tuesday night where it was a bit more of a kind of a 5-4-1. I guess we think back at Hillsborough, do we expect it to revert back to a kind of a 3-5-2 with a bit more of an attacking edge? That's kind of what I'm expecting. I don't see any reason for him to start messing around too much with a formation that's been working for us.
No, I 100% agree. I think it should be 3-5-2. Like I said, the two at the moment, I would stick with Matthias and Nuhiu, depending on injuries, etc., and who's available, if Matthias is or not. We obviously don't know what's happening there. But yeah, I'd stick with 3-5-2. I don't think we've had any problems with it so far. I think I would, obviously, no matter what, I would keep Wildsmith where he is, depending on the Westwood situation. And I think let's give it a good go. Like you said, they've been on a pretty, average run. I'm not a big fan of Birmingham. I think I know Rich was there that day. I think anyone that went to the Birmingham away game that I went to about 10 years ago would also not be a big fan of Birmingham.
Was that the Tommy Johnson goal?
Yeah, that was the brick throwing and the chair throwing. Can you remember we got kettled in that car park? It was wonderful.
Yeah, remember it, yeah.
Was it 10, 12 years ago, something like that, Rich?
I don't know.
I know Dan Short got hit by a brick.
Dan
got hit by a brick and he was a little kid. I'm not a big fan of them. I think, I watch them on telly if they're on because I find a lot of the stuff that they do and the situation that they find themselves in, I find quite similar to us. So I quite enjoy to watch them, but I'm not expecting a battering from them. If they do, they do, But 3-5-2 for me.
We have a really good record against Birmingham at home in recent seasons. I think last season we beat them 3-0. The season before, I think we beat them either 4-0 or 4-1 or something along those lines. And certainly in recent times we have a good record. So this might just be the perfect game to be playing at the perfect time. So yeah, it could be the game that gets us back to winning ways and hopefully puts us on the right kind of path, really. Well, one final bit from me, and I've got a feeling I'm probably not going to be very popular in the room for saying this, but I do want to give a big shout out to the Owls Talk podcast, because I don't know if you've listened to it or not, but their podcast this week is absolutely brilliant. So Neil's gone out to Malta to meet the supporters group over there. It's honestly, it is a really good listen. Okay, so that's going to bring us to a conclusion of the Wednesday week for this week. Vic, tell us about your socials.
You can find me on Twitter at Victoria1867. You can email me at vic@thewednesdayweek.co.uk, but I can't read them, so I don't know how to, and Kieran still hasn't set it up, so just a little nudge to Kieran there. Thank you.
Rich, I'm assuming pictures of did you have like a giant ball cake for your birthday? Because that's what people do now.
Funny you should say that. No, I didn't. No, there was no balls and no cake.
No balls.
Yesterday. No balls. No balls.
Worst birthday ever.
Yeah, exactly. No, we were playing with fire last night. We went out for a meal at Wasabi Sabi, so that was quite at teppanyaki. That was good. But anyway, you can find me at Dickie Owl, and I'm actually starting to enjoy talking about Wednesday a little bit again after having a period of like I described earlier, the lover that got dumped.
Well, fair enough. If you want to get hold of me, I am at James Marriott. I have to confess that I've been talking probably a little bit more about my other love, my other team, over the last few days, because that's what I was doing at the weekend, and I'm doing the not next weekend, but just after next weekend, which is why I'm missing the Derby game. So there's quite a bit of German football talk as well on my Twitter at the moment. But it's interesting stuff. So if you want to give us a shout, at James Marriott, you know how to get all the podcasts. We're on Twitter at TWWcast, and all the other details, everything you need to know, is at thewednesdayweek.co.uk. Thank you. Try that again.
What?
Yeah. Thank you for your company, and we'll speak to you soon.